Hello again, Struck Club. Today I'm bringing you a bit of news about Torchlight 3 with this video, and it is that the game is preparing to launch soon. What soon means we can only guess, but my guess is that it's probably gonna be within the next month and a half or so, so let's say around maybe Halloween or during November latest we might be able to see the update. There is a message from Max Schaefer, CEO of Extra Games, the developers of Torchlight 3, that you could see on Steam. The link has been added to the description of this video if you wanna open it and look at it later. Basically, they've just released another massive patch, which is the update for dummies patch, which I've got 3 separate videos breaking down the patch notes and talking a little bit about certain things that came with it. And that update included content updating, tuning, quality of life improvements and bug fixing. And I can tell you that the game still has a lot of bugs to fix, but it's still in early access technically, so there's still a lot of things that needs to be fixed before the launch, but bugs currently are not the biggest problem in the game. Everyone is wondering, is this game worth it? Is my money well spent if I buy the game now before it launches? Am I gonna enjoy the game? Is it the right game for me? And I think, is it the right game for me is the best question to ask yourself. I'm gonna try and talk a little bit about the things that the game can offer. In general, I'm gonna probably start with the positive things, and the game really has a lot of positive things for me personally as a player, the things I like seeing in games. There's a lot of those things in Torchlight 3 right now in its current shape. And at the moment in the game you've got a very nice amount of build diversity. You've got 4 classes and 5 subclasses. Combine each class with each subclass, and that's 20 combinations of class plus subclass. And each class subclass combination can be built in a different way. You can focus more on the skills on one side of things, for example a conductor realm master, or you can get a slammer realm master, or you can get a light major mage, or a dark major mage, or a ranged forged, or a melee forged, or a summoning or adventure centric sharpshooter, or a precision sharpshooter. And then for each of those there's multiple choices. Do I want to go for explosive arrow sharpshooter? Do I want to go for targeted strikes, or do I want to go for tight grouping? Do I want to get onslaught? Do I want to go for a slammer that's using basic attacks? Do I want to go for a forge that's spin to win? Do I want bunches of punches? So there's more than 100 combinations that you can make, more than 100 different builds that you can make with the game, and this is such a great pulling point for many players out there. And I think this is one of the strongest things that Torchlight 3 can offer, the build diversity and variety. And in most cases those builds would be viable. Yes, there's clear meta choices that would be able to push further and probably complete all 251 stages of the endgame. More about the endgame later. And there's also those builds that would be struggling in pushing, but they can still farm the best items in the game, because you don't need to be doing the hardest levels, and you don't need to be playing on the hardest difficulty to get the best items in the game. You can play on practice if you want, you can play on ridiculous if you want, you can play stage 16 of the Fazeer, you can play stage 18 of the Fazeer, you can play stage 50, 100, whatever stage you can reach. You can even run mapworks, although mapworks right now are kind of hard thing to keep spamming. You can't non-stop spam mapworks, because you won't be farming more maps than you're gaining. Yeah, so you're still gonna have to do Fazeer. And again, more about the Fazeer, how it forces you into playing this endgame mode once you finish the story, and it doesn't give you choice of doing other things later, which is gonna be more of the negative part of the video. But about other positive things in the game, there's a bunch of storage, so you can save up all that sweet wood for outs and for other builds you want to experiment with. You've got a lot of storage space under the form of stash tabs and wardrobes. There's a different amount of customization under the form of enchanting, which is not a bad thing, although still needs some variety. And there's the pet system, which feels very basic and lackluster, but it's okay. It's okay the way it is right now. If they expand it later with the DLC, that's fine. It's something that has a good strong foundation which can be built upon and expanded, and I like that finding pets now is just for skin purposes, and any pet can be used with any skill. You just unlock the skills by collecting pets, and eventually you can put any pet skin you want. For example, you can use a dragon with the same skills that you can use on a dog or on a cat. So you just take the pet skin you want and just slap the skills you want on that pet skin, and that's something nice because some of the pets are kind of hard to get as skins, and if they put special skills to those, it might break the balance there and make it very grindy. So speaking of grindy things, the XP, another negative thing which I will talk more about later, it feels much grindier right now. In general, the game's latest few updates the past few months have been 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. But hey, this is still a step forward. If you deduct 1 step from the 2 steps, they're still moving forward with the game. Yes, they're adding more things I like than the things I dislike, but they are adding with each update, for me personally, the way I like my games being cooked. They're adding some spices in the recipe that I think shouldn't be there. So hopefully some of the things I dislike in the game get sorted, but I'm not getting my hopes too high because the things I like in games are much different than the things the majority of gamers do. So we'll see how that turns out, but in general, the developers really care and love the game, and they care about what the community thinks, and most of the major changes we've seen in the previous updates have been as a result of player feedback. People wanted things in one way, the developers did them this way. People decided they want things in a different way now because they didn't like what they initially did, well, the developers changed it. And they reworked the relic and skill systems multiple times to accommodate for what the community wants. Whether it's a good or a bad thing, that remains to be seen. I personally love some of the changes that have been added in the game, such as the skill system being such as it is right now, giving me so much freedom in only putting points in the skills I want to, not forcing me into leveling up skills, so just I could unlock other skills like it's an outdated system. Let's be honest, some games who force you into putting points into one skill just so you can unlock another skill without needing to use the first one is outdated as a system, and thankfully Torchlight 3 is not doing it in that way. You just need to reach a certain level to unlock a certain skill before you can put points into that one skill. And each skill has different bonuses, such as active skill modifiers, such as damage for the active skill you're leveling, or duration for the active skill you're leveling, or passive modifiers, which are across the class. For example, cooldown for all your Realm Master skills, Forged, or etc. skills. Or for example, you can get damage to your relic skills by investing in one of your non-relic skills up to tier 2. So those things further add onto the build variety. In general, the game has a sufficient amount of legendaries, 100 plus legendary items, which all have specific legendary powers, and those legendary powers, once you find the item, you unlock them to put into the legendarium, which, if you're familiar with Diablo 3 Skanai Cube, it works in a similar way. You find a weapon that lets you shoot stalactites from the sky falling onto the enemy's heads, and let's say you find it at level 10 and then you're now level 30 and wearing that weapon is just pointless. Well, then you just go in your legendarium, you go in one of the slots that you've unlocked and you put that power, the legendary power of the weapon, in case, for example, I use the White Vault Cavebreaker as an example. So you select White Vault Cavebreaker and you get the same ability without needing to wear the item. And you have 3 slots of those. And that further adds on the variety. So the wood chase is there, and eventually they will keep adding new items, but for now there won't be any before the game launches as new legendary items, as far as we know. But yeah, a lot of good things. And the forts. The forts are just an entire animal. It's like another game inside of the game. If you like building your base, your fort, if you want to make a weird looking, nice looking um, home place, homestead, well, you can benefit from so many different flooring, props, lampposts, benches, chairs, rugs, all sorts of things. Instead of just having a very boring, non-customizable base, they're giving you the option to customize your base to the way you like by unlocking different rewards from contracts, and the contracts I will talk about later. In general, the game really has shaped up amazingly well over the last few years, and this is gonna be a very long video. It has already been 10 minutes, but there's gonna be a lot more, so I'm gonna add some timestamps in the description for all of you to skip through. I think next it's time to talk about endgame. There's only one endgame, and that is the Fazeer's dungeon. And I think before I talk about it, I need to explain what it is. So what is the Fazeer's dungeon? Well, I'm gonna try and attempt to answer this question as well as I can in the next few minutes. First, it's what is considered the endgame in Torchlight 3, and you unlock the Fazeer's dungeon by completing Act 3 of the story, and then going to Act 1's town, Travel Point, and talking to a mysterious wanderer, which would then unlock this item, the Fazeer's Dungeon Prop, which can be found in your fort inventory. You can place it from the inventory, and then you can start doing the endgame dungeons. So you have to interact with the object in your fort, and that would unlock the first challenge. The first challenge, you're gonna be able to select between 3 different maps. Each map would have its own negative affix and a positive affix. Sometimes things would repeat, but basically you would be able to see in the picture an indication of the types of enemies, the major type of enemies to expect. You're gonna be able to see the element, whether it's poison, fire, electric or physical, and the name of the map, which probably, if you learn them, could indicate what type of a map it will be. Once you finish this, you unlock the next one, and the same would happen there. You've got 3 different maps with different choices, and then after that you reach the first boss. If you die on the boss fight, you go back to challenge level 1. If you die on challenge level 2, you go back to challenge level 1. This is the checkpoint. The checkpoint is always the first one of a set of challenges. This set of challenges has 3. The next one you unlock after completing the boss fight, which is a set of challenges of 4. And from here onwards, I think all the way until 251, every time it will be 4 sets of challenges, 4 levels for that set. And from here onwards, you're gonna start seeing an additional negative modifier. So between 4 and 7 it's Nimbo, then you go to Berserking, then you go to Double Health, then you go to Blazing, then you go to Plague Bearer, then you go to Stormbringer, then Netherwell, and so on. And eventually you start getting 2 challenges here, 2 extra affixes, and eventually you start getting 3. And those affixes would apply to everything under this set. So this Nimbo with monster movement and attack speed would apply regardless which map I pick from level 4, from challenge 5, from challenge level 6, and it gets added on top of those here. So if I pick Corked Reliquarian, it's gonna also have Nimbo. If I pick Oops All Traps, it's also gonna have Nimbo. And the same applies to the other ones. If I go here, then on top of Spiky and the Wanderer's Hood, I'm gonna get Berserking. So hopefully this is kind of clear, and each time you defeat the boss, you unlock the next challenge. So if you beat the boss at level 11, you unlock your next checkpoint, which is level 12. And if you die at level 14, you go back to 12. If you die at this boss fight at 15, you go back to 12. And that's kind of how it is. If you're in a map and you disconnect, you you don't go back, you don't lose the progress. If you're in a map and out and F4 or just shut down the game, whatever, whether it's a crash or a disconnect, you don't lose your progress unless you actually die in the game. And once you die, some of those challenges would change. You would be seeing different things than Berserking, Infamous, Damage Enhanced and Boom Room on level 13. So dying would kind of give you different type of options, different choices to select between. Of course, things are randomized all the time, and sometimes you might not like something, and right now the only way to deal with not liking either of the three choices is to go in and die. But if you go in and die, you're going back to the checkpoint. But if you're doing the first checkpoint, for example, let's say I've just unlocked level 12 and I don't like either of those, well, you can go in, you can die, and then those would get reset. I think this mode really needs a ton of work more. I think it's incomplete, I think it's very boring, I think it's not motivating me enough to play it, and I think there's a lot of imbalanced map modifiers and monster modifiers that kind of make stacking defenses pointless, because you still die regardless of that super quickly. Hopefully things change. Regarding the modifiers, there's a lot of modifiers, but they're always thinking of adding new and reworking the old ones. What I think this mode is missing is rewards. It's missing rewards. There's nothing special by beating a boss fight. After doing 3 maps and doing the 4th one being a boss, you don't see anything. You don't see any special, any additional reward. The boss chests don't have increased chance to drop wood. Each challenge level doesn't have increased chances of dropping specific items. For example, I had this idea long ago and I sent it to developers to do something similar to what Borderlands is doing with certain monsters having slightly increased chance to drop items. For example, in Borderlands 3, the Luda Sniper has slightly increased chance of dropping from the boss at the end of the of one of the slaughterhouses of the creature dome. I forgot the name. So if you kill that big T-Rex, you have slightly increased chance of getting the Luda and I think the Maggie. So for example, if the developers consider adding a system that each challenge has slightly increased chance of dropping a specific legendary item, then people who want that specific legendary item in their build, they can focus on that. So the game doesn't have a system like this. That you don't have a, something that would make you want to do one of the previous challenges, other than something that I'm gonna talk about later, which would be the current meta way of farming items. With Infamous unique maps. So apart from Infamous unique maps, I don't have anything that would push me into doing that game mode other than boosting my ego and comparing EP sizes with others and saying, look at my horse, it reached better stages, look at my badge, it says 251 on it, yours says 20, you fucking pleb. So that's the only thing that would wanna get people to push further. Apart from egotistical purposes, you don't have any reason to challenge yourself to push further. You don't get rewarded. The mode is very imbalanced and needs a lot of reworking and changes to it to make it a fun experience that doesn't make you feel bad when playing it. So if they improve this, if they make it rewarding, if they rebalance it, and if they add more endgame activities, I think this will be nice. I'm kind of disappointed because in the alpha people were saying it better not have just mapworks when launching, and what do we get? We just get mapworks on steroids when launching, because that's what the Fazeer is, mapworks on steroids. It's not different than mapworks, it's mapworks with more affixes and more randomization. I'm not saying it's bad to have this, but it's pretty close to mapworks, and instead of them making a completely different experience and keeping mapworks the way they were without reworking them with the fixes they had, with the duration of a map dungeon being all the way up to 3 stages and so on, they decided to just go for the easy route, the one that would take less development time and give us an improved version of the mapworks, instead of making something like a survival mode or a payload mode, something that's in its core different than Mapworks, that doesn't look the same. Because right now if I open a Mapworks map and something like this, and if I remove the interface of the Fazeer under the minimap, people wouldn't know that I'm doing a Fazeer map or a Mapworks. They wouldn't know. If I hide my UI, it would seem exactly the same. They wouldn't know that it's a different thing. And I think this is probably one of the things that I'm kind of disappointed in the game about. Apart from that, apart from me ranting about the things that the Fazeer could have been and the Fazeer could be, the Mapworks is actually a very nice system, even though they nerfed it. And we can't speak about endgame without talking about contracts. That's something else that's like a battle pass for free for everyone forever. So you don't pay a single cent. It's not like you have to pay $10 to unlock a contract battle pass like in Marvel Heroes. Not Marvel Heroes, Marvel's Avengers. Sorry, Marvel Heroes, for confusing you with the other game. But yeah, in Marvel Avengers you have to pay $10 to get some cosmetic rewards and functional rewards. Well, you don't have to do it here. It's free. You unlock this and you start completing contract levels by killing enemies and getting fame. Each time you reach 333 fame, you get a fame level, and that pushes you up to the next reward. And there's 40 rewards for each contract that you can get as a one-shot, one-time only reward, such as character slots, such as extra things for your fort as decoration, such as stash taps, statues, lampposts, and all sorts of things. And there's a bunch of recipes and also storage space, which is those things. So that's not bad, that's good, that's something that would keep you motivated, and this is also the main way of getting farming done after reaching the end game. So let's say you've beaten this contract and gotten all the 40 rewards, and you start doing the repeatable endless rewards. So at level 40 you've got 41, 2, 3, etc. all the way to 49. And those rewards, as you can see here, are resources, gear, essences, decoration, gear, spectacles, legendary gear bundle, supply map run, which is map with gear work, and then greater essence. Once you get this one and you get another level, you go back to this. So from 1 to 9, from 1 to 9, that's how it goes. And the main source of legendary gear and blue gear is this, because if you do a map, the map I mentioned, which is a combination of infamous and unique. Infamous is this modifier. Champions and bosses provide double fame. And if you do that on ridiculous, which gives you more fame in general, and if you find uniques, which is all champions spawned are unique quality. Unique champions give you 3 times the fame of purple champions. So if a purple champion gives you 25 on practice, it will give you for a unique enemy 75 on ridiculous. If on ridiculous you get 150 fame from a unique, from a purple you would be getting 50. And if you have double fame, infamous, on top of uniques, it means every time you encounter a champion pack it will be unique instead of purple or legendary, instead of elite or legendary, and it would be every time giving you double fame. So you'll be getting 300 fame for every champion pack that spawns in the map. And this is how in theory, I've actually even done it in practice, you can get more than 30 contract levels for a single map run. If you get the right map, I've done it on stream, I've gotten 33 or 34 contract levels, which results in 3 legendary gear bundles and then some. And that is how you get gear, because I was able to get 3 times the rewards here and then probably half of the next set of rewards. And this could be a little bit boring way of farming, an indirect way of getting rewarded from the Fazeer, but it is what it is. It's the current way of farming gear. It's the current meta way of farming gear. And if you want to abuse it, you can, instead of killing the boss in the map, you can leave before killing the boss and then go back and do the same map, because it doesn't show up every time. You can't get a unique infamous map every time. And if you see it, you can just run it until it's time to kill the boss, exit, go back into your fort, and then the map will be there for you to redo it. Don't do it if you feel like this is cheating. Don't do it. I'm not doing it that way, and I never will do it that way, because it's just not the way I think the game is meant to be played. But at least go for infamous unique maps if you want to farm efficiently as much as you can gear bundles without needing to abuse that exit and repeat map activity. Apart from that, the game has many other things that it can offer. Such as, for example, storage space. You have a ton of storage space, not just the 9 or 10 stash tabs you can unlock, but also you can get other things such as statues. Each class can only access their own wardrobe statues, which I'm not a big fan of, but that's how it is. And when you go into the crafting menu and you go to storage and you go to wardrobes, you can see for example, I can build myself two of those. Each of the storage layouts, designs has a limit of 2, and I can make a bunch of Dusk Mage statues if I only want to play Dusk Mage, or a bunch of Forged statues if I want to play Forged. So that's like, let's go from the bottom. You have some that are specifically for hardcore. If you're playing hardcore, it's separate storage than the non-hardcore. But then, for example, let's say you have a terracotta. So you make 2 terracotta ones, then you make 2 chiseled ones. So that's 4. Then with the jungle, that's 6. With the bronze, that's 8. With the one here, that's the blue one, that's 10. And with those, it's 12 statues. Each statue can hold a set of items, and I think this is something that's a pulling point for the game. People love storage, people love storing their goods. The enchanting system is also something that's good and great for the game, and it's now a kind of an endgame thing. You can still disenchant items, salvage items that you don't need for materials. I'm gonna quickly just pick some random item from my storage to show you. So let's take this item and let's go to the enchanter storage just to show those of you who may not know what it is. So you just take this item, you right click, and boom, it gives you essence. For legendary item you're getting legendary essence, for a green item green essence, white items no essence for those. And enchanting is a system that allows you to put affixes into items. Every type of item has a different type of recipes that can be applied to it. For example, on my weapon, one-handed, I can do one-handed weapon, and I can also do on a ranged weapon only recipes, and things like that can be applied. So yeah, different items, different things that you can apply to those. So that's kind of how it goes. It's a good system. I still think it needs some more changing, but I do like some of the recent changes where, for example, in recipes like this, I only see the damage. The fat damage is in just one place, so it's much easier to get fat damage than before. I mean, certain things are still mixed. Physical damage is mixed with crit chance versus bleeding, crit damage and crit chance. I think I would like to see one recipe for all different elemental damages. So physical damage, poison damage, ice damage, fire damage, electric damage, all of that. I would like to see it in one place, and I can just roll that recipe for the flat damages. And then chance to burn, chance to bleed, chance to shock, and all of that I would like to see in different places, the damage over times. And then crit chance versus this, that, etc. I would like to see in a different place. Again, there are certain things that I would like to see as quality of life, but that's not my big problem. My big problem right now with the game is there's only one type of endgame. It can become like any type of endgame, very repetitive and very boring very quickly. It doesn't reward the players enough, and I fear that if the game launches with just this, with just the Fazeer, it's just not gonna be enough, and it might be disastrous and the game might flop. I sincerely hope that's not the case. I sincerely hope people would see the beauty in the game and look past the boring end game and just like the game for the build variety that it can offer. And it really can offer build variety. It can offer you 20 combinations of quas and subquas, 4 quasses plus 5 subquasses that can be added on each quas. That's a total of 20 combinations. Total of 20 combinations, and that's a lot of skills and passives. You can think that each quas has 7 skills on one tree, 7 skills on another tree. That's 14 skills per quas. But on top of that you have 5 subquasses, which is a total of 25 active and 25 passive skills you can add on top of your quas. So that is a lot. That is a lot of stuff. That is 64 plus... yeah, that's 64 skills altogether. 25 active, 25 passive, and then your quas skills. And if you think that there's if you add the chances of getting different combinations by combining that, all those 20 combinations I mentioned have probably around 100 plus ways of doing a build. So yeah, I can be a cold hard Realm Master, but I can decide to go train and not go melee slammer. I can be playing the Cold Heart with Snowstorm and Cold Front, but I could decide to play it with Ice Shield and Ice Golem and Frost Blast, or maybe with Frost Blast and Snowstorm, or maybe with just Ice Shield and the Golem. There's many ways. I could decide to play with the basic attack build and then use large boars. I could maybe decide to get this one so I can just stack chilling. There's many ways to play it, and this build variety is something that's a big pulling point personally for me with this game. It's something that is not on the surface, and it's not easy to figure out without spending some more time in the game, without at least making one playthrough and starting to do the end game. And I sincerely hope that the Torchlight 3 team, after launching the game, would start making new end game content, which is the bread and butter in those games. It's what keeps people playing: more end game content, more end game variety, more activities, survival modes, killing bosses in the open zones from the story, and things like that. Just look at Grim Dawn and how successful it has been with a premium model, which is the model that Torchlight 3 wants to go for. The model where you buy the game and then pay for expansions when there's some. Grim Dawn has a survival mode like the Crucible. It has a Nemesis system where you can revisit some of the zones, and the enemies would be scaled up to your level nicely in those zones. And you can just hunt for those nemesis that have specific points that they can spawn into. Then you've got roguelike dungeons like Port Valbury, Bastion of Chaos, and things like that. I wouldn't mind seeing such dungeons here. And this dungeon roguelikeness of the dungeons makes me think like that system where you die and you go back to the checkpoint seems like it doesn't belong in the Fazeer. It seems like the Fazeer is a system designed for power creep, but the power creep has been removed. And I don't like power creep in games, but I think if they make some sort of power creep system that rewards you different things by completing the Fazeer that apply to you only while you're in the Fazeer, things that only make you stronger while you're in the Fazeer, I think that would be an interesting system. Because once you reach level 60 enemies, the Fazeer starts from level 46, and as you go to higher levels, the enemy level grows until level 60. After level 60, then you start getting the enemies benefiting from movement speed, damage, and HP. So after you reach the Fazeer stage level, I think 16, after stage 16 you start fighting 60 enemies, and after 61 you're gonna start seeing the enemies benefiting from more movement speed, more damage, and more HP, and all of that becomes a little bit bullet spongy, a little bit one-shotty. So you're getting one-shotted on super defensive builds, and super glass cannon builds feel like they're taking forever to kill enemies. And that's my experience with the Fazeer. That's why I really think it needs big, massive changes. Because on paper, when they first teased the Fazeer's dungeon to me and a bunch of other content creators, it seemed like a fun system, but then I got to play it and then I got so disappointed, and I really hope that doesn't become the thing that makes people stop playing Torchlight 3 because they get bored after completing the story. Another thing that the game is not doing right is XP. It was doing XP fine, but then they decided to nerf the XP. And that would also probably make many people stop playing the game because they don't like how quickly they're leveling outs. In fact, there is no system that lets you level up outs quicker. It's super boring and repetitive having to do the story on every single next hero you want to level up. And another thing, the game has 20 different combinations of classes and subclasses, but it also only gives you 13 character slots. So from all the 20 combinations, if you want to try them all, you would have to delete some of the other heroes. You have 7 less character slots than the 20 total class plus subclass combinations. So you really have to either buy the game twice or wait for the developers to actually realize this and give you more character slots so that you can do it. Or maybe someone making a mod. And this brings us to mods. Mods are a great thing for Torchlight 1 and 2. Torchlight 2 has countless mods on the Steam Workshop and on other websites like the Nexus and so on. So you can be sure that if the game is well received by the modders, they would start making mods for it. And that probably would mean mods such as more character slots and so on, but the mods would be only for the offline mode. You won't be able to play your online heroes with your online items on the offline mode. Offline will be separate than the online, and that's a good thing. Keeping the cheating and the modding and all of that separate from the regular vanilla version, but the developers have said it before that if they like certain mods on the offline, they would add them and include them as official features in the online mode. So hopefully that really ends up becoming a thing if someone comes up with a very nice and fun mod that doesn't break the game and fits well in the online version. So this pretty much sums up some of the good and bad things I wanted to talk about, so that you can maybe figure out with this information whether the game is the right game for you, whether it's worth getting it now, and whether on launch it would have enough stuff to keep you busy. The build variety is a good thing, the lack of endgame variety is a bad thing. The ton of items, 100 plus legendary items that further open up builds, very good thing about the game. But the lack of customization once you find the item, and the lack of customization of the affixes apart from enchanting is a negative. So there's quality of life things I'd like to see, such as a affix rerolling system similar to the ones in Chronicon and Diablo 3 and other games, where I can modify my affixes. And then even bad drop rates, nerfed drop rates of legendaries wouldn't matter much, and of blue items as well, as long as we can change the affixes and item drops to negate bad RNG. I think the game for me is worth it, but for you, you have to figure out that for yourself based on the information that I've provided you, hopefully. So thanks for watching the video. I hope the info was useful to you. If you wanna get notified when I upload more content such as builds, guides and other info videos like this one, you can subscribe to my channel, hit that bell button to not miss out on the notifications. Thank you for watching Struck Quoop. Keep it cool, and until next time, goodbye.